But you now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay?
We're doing the same thing.
And so it's just, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
That was Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, explaining to you how the ins and outs of pretty much what's going on with all these woke companies. And the boycotts that have been taking on right now are kicking him in the nads. Let's get into it. So Larry Fink just lets you know that sometimes you've just got to force them to do what you need them to do on gender and all of this other stuff. Well, maybe you didn't understand. Maybe you thought these big corporations were the ones in control. Maybe you thought that they're not in control. They are being controlled. And don't feel bad for them because we need to punish them. Because the bottom line is there needs to be a decision made by these companies on who the enemy is. And if they don't see BlackRock and Vanguard as the enemy, I don't care how much money they have invested in these companies, they need to realize that no matter what happens, they're taking a hit. That they're just in a bad way right now. The country's in a bad way right now. And whatever happens, no matter which side they choose, they're going to end up taking a hit. But what needs to be made clear to these companies is that if you take a hit from the American people, or even the global market for that matter, if you take a hit from the global market, you take a hit from your consumers, that you will never recover. That message needs to be made clear. And as long as we make that message clear, they have zero power, and the CCP is now scratching their heads once again as to why can I not penetrate this damn nation? These Marxists don't exist, folks. They're an illusion. They're a bunch of bots on social media, children, and indoctrinated and groomed children at that, and media. That's what it is. And every time you see one of these boycotts, it shows you can't have a bot counteract a boycott. What happens when the left tries to boycott something? Their sales go up. But when the right does it and we do it right, they're crushed. And I know, don't give me this InBev is so big, it doesn't matter. It matters. Billions of dollars in revenue that'll never be recovered matters. Don't even start with that. These are public companies. They're penniless if they're not worth more next year than they are this year. The reality is their sales reports are going to come out, and if there's a 1% decline in sales, as Anheuser-Busch's CEO tried to act like was no big deal, if they report that in the quarterly sales, their stocks are going to tank, and it ain't going to be something that BlackRock can save them from. This is how we fight back, folks. This is it. Now, Article V, that fixes things forever. But this at least lets us play some offense, because it's up to us to make these companies decide, do you want to permanently lose your customer base, or do you want to, or what's more scary to you, right? BlackRock and Vanguard, pulling their money out, or losing your customer base? Because sooner or later, if enough of these companies if Target permanently loses a customer base, if they lose 30 or 40% of their customer base permanently, that's huge. What'll happen if that happens and it stays that way, and 6 months from now they never regain it? They just lost it. Because that stuff just snowballs. Now it's like, oh, dude, people start walking in their house with a Target bag. It's like, ooh, you went to Target? The hell, so you're okay with grooming kids? Like you're a pedophile? What are you? Like people start doing that kind of stuff. That's when it's going to start making a difference. That's when you're going to start seeing, now Kmart on its own will pull that crap from the shelves. Walmart, whatever, they'll pull all that crap from the shelves before because it won't be long before someone walks in there with a video camera. They'll be like, hey, look what they're doing to your kids. Look what they want your boys to wear. This is how we win. This is how we win, folks. And it's important that, look, it's hard enough to freaking get by today as it is. Choosing where you spend your money is a huge thing. And we absolutely should be doing it with our conscience, and we should be doing it in accordance with our belief system. And let's see how many Marxists there are out there. Let's see how many people really do believe that men can get pregnant and that men should be competing in women's sports. Let's see how many there really are, because they don't exist, folks. We're talking about a minuscule portion of the society that's almost statistically uncountable. They just all happen to be working in media, all happen to be working in Hollywood, and all happen to be working in freaking universities. Either that, or they're the newly indoctrinated, fresh from the mint, last class. Let's see. And this is a way to do that. I'm going to leave you with a former executive of Anheuser-Busch who actually sat with Jesse Waters and articulated exactly from his angle how this goes down, and see if everything he tells you is not the same as what I have been saying for literally the last year and a half. All right. See if there's any difference. Here it goes.
Let's bring in Anson Frericks. He's a former Anheuser-Busch executive and co-founder of Strive Asset Management.
Jesse, thanks for having me this morning. I mean, here's how it works. It's pretty simple. You just have to follow the money. If you take a look at BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they manage $20 trillion worth of capital. But it's not their own money. This is the money of everyday citizens, firefighters, police officers, doctors, who generally have their money either via 401ks or, in a lot of cases, large pension funds. Large pension funds like the state of California, which manages the largest pension fund in the U.S., and the state of New York, and then European pension funds as well. And a lot of the politicians in those states, in California, for example, they recently have mandated those large pension funds that they divest from things like fossil fuels and oil and gas. And then when Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York, was there, did the same thing. But they also tell BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, if they're going to manage their money, they have to commit to things like ESG, diversity, equity, inclusion, and adopt firm-wide commitments that they therefore then force onto all the major companies in corporate America.
So the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, says to a BlackRock, we're not going to send you our $100 billion state pension if you're going to invest in ExxonMobil. We're only going to send it to you guys if you guys are going to invest it in woke companies. And then that's what these places do. They invest it in these woke companies. They make them woker, and then everybody gets paid. You left Anheuser-Busch because of some of these shenanigans. What happened there?
Oh, I left Anheuser-Busch, not necessarily because of Anheuser-Busch, but a lot of other companies. I was living in Atlanta, for example, during the 2021 time period, and you had the citizens of Georgia. They voted for representatives to make sure we could have election integrity laws. You have to have an ID to vote. And for that ID to vote, this seemed like it was a pretty logical law. I was kind of surprised in Georgia didn't have it. But what was crazy to me was that after the fact, BlackRock came out and they said, we're against this law. We think this is bad for democracy. This is bad for society. And they basically then had companies like Coca-Cola, like Delta, and heck, even Major League Baseball. They canceled an all-star game over this. And when I was seeing this was bad for capital markets, because instead of these companies just delivering soft drinks or heck, doing Major League Baseball, they're getting involved in these political issues. That's bad for these companies because they're alienating a lot of their customers, as we're seeing right now with firms like Anheuser-Busch. But frankly, it's bad for democracy as well. Citizens should be able to decide these things through free and fair elections, not necessarily with a small group of asset managers and CEOs that are telling individuals how to live their lives.
You see, right? You see that BlackRock comes out against it, and that's the signal. Once the signal's dropped, everyone who's alerted needs to know that they need to come out against it. Everyone who's alerted needs to come out against it, and they do. And they do because there are no repercussions. That Bud Light hopefully changed all that. And Target hopefully will be the next example. The more sales damage that can be done to Target's revenue, the more walking away that can be done to their revenue by the good people of this country who are standing up for our children, the better off this nation will be, and the healthier this nation's soul will be. On that note, I'm out.
And like that,